Some people dream and yearn, but never quite make it off the comfort of the tarmac. Others throw themselves in at the deep end, buy the bike and just head out the door. And there's something to be said for that. I've done it in the past, naive to what can go wrong, blissfully unaware of the mess and the danger even that you might get into. And a lot of the time, maybe most of the time, you'll be lucky and it'll be fine. But we've been road riding long enough to know that when things go wrong, it can be a right nightmare. And having a bit of knowledge how to repair a puncture, a few tools and bits to bodge a repair maybe, can sometimes reduce your risks and definitely the hassle by half. So for us, the journey to adventure, to the unpaved roads less travelled, has been a bit of a slower burn, something we've worked towards. We started with some trail riding days over in Wales, scratching the surface of off-road skills, trying out different bikes and finding what was right for us. We chose to buy CRFs and we spent a bit of time getting the bike set up how we wanted. We learnt what tyres we need and how to change them ourselves. We rode the local lanes, had a few spills and learned to recognise the stupidity of overconfidence and when ambition was exceeding ability. We tested our navs and mapping, and now, with some basic knowledge and a few lessons under our belts, after taking our time, we're off on our first adventure.
It's the bare-faced biker.
So arriving into Santander, our rough plan was to pick up the TET and to cover as much of the loop around the Picos Mountains as weather, our fitness and ability allowed within a week. We were heading for Potes and we'd only booked somewhere to stay for the first and last nights. We'd wing it for the rest of the 7 nights we'd spend in Spain.
Interesting. Cool. Straight on. Here it is. It's just fantastic. Left, is it? Trackers, piece of piss.
So having left the tarmac within about half an hour of clearing the ferry, the first hour or two are quite a nice easy intro to the TET, well at least if the weather's been dry. So lulled into a false sense of security, we had a couple of mishaps, and whilst not unusual, this far from home and with the level of experience we've got, it did strike a bit of fear into us. But we've prepped the best we can, and we overcame the challenges, and boy, were we rewarded early in the trip. The rest of the day down to Potes is epic.
I mean, wow.
So to be honest, we were a bit ambitious on day one and covered about 200 kilometres, the majority of which was off the tarmac. But the weather was perfect, and while the pizza in Potes was nothing to write home about, our accommodation was first class.
Day 2 of trying not to catastrophically break down or die.
So the plan on day 2 was to scoot down the road and take in the Lomba del Toro, or Spine of the Bull. However, the weather wasn't on our side, so whilst we did traverse it, the views weren't quite what we'd hoped for, but we'll come back to that later. However, we forged on for some great trails to Cangas de Onis, and we took in a little loop just near there at the end of the first day, which was awesome. So after a bit of on-road stuff, we climbed back up into the clouds and endured what turned out to be the only bit of rain on the whole trip. Traversing some more varied and awesome scenery over to Cangas de Onus, we then decided to take in a loop that was ahead of us on the TET and then swing back into Cangas to stay overnight.
Let's go.
Suffice to say, the TET loop north of Cangas is awesome, and when we finally dropped back down out of the clouds again, we had a very nice evening at the end of day 2. So on day 3, we continue anti-clockwise around the northern part of the TET, covering about 160k. Towards the end of the day, we divert about 10k off route to overnight in the fairly tourist-free ex-industrial town of Mieres. side shots here where other bikes have done the same. That is the picture. Riding the TET is like nothing we've really experienced before. Every turn off the road is a turn into the unknown. But northern Spain, the TET and the Picos are incredible, and it's all totally worth the effort. In the UK, you ride 10 miles to find half a mile of track or byway. In the Picos, you ride a track for 10 miles to find the next road. It's amazing. Cider from a height. So following another brilliant day's riding and a pleasant evening in Mieres, we scoot back up to the TET to continue the adventure. However, it's becoming clear we don't have enough time to do the whole loop, so towards the end of day 4 we slightly cut the western end off and drop south to find overnight accommodation in Astorga. Bit misty in the forest this morning, we're getting little blue patches of sky coming through. It's supposed to burn off and be 27, 28 degrees today. I'll tell you later. Oh my word. Yep.
doing?
So on day 5, we scoot back up to the TET from Astorga, and having missed a bit off the western end, we're now heading east along the southern side of the loop. Then at the end of day 5, we drop down slightly off the route again so that we can enjoy an evening in Lyon. Bit of chain maintenance.
Church bell tower, massive stork's nest on the top, stork proudly standing on the nest. Amazing. was spot on, that was, wasn't it? Field repairs to remove a chain guard that's rubbing for some reason, probably got broken. We know not why, we know not how, we do not care. We've taken it off and on we go.
So on from Lyon, we scoot back north to pick up the TET and continue east along the southern part of the loop as far as Guardo. We'd expected more fast forest tracks and fields, which we found later in the day, but the TET surprised us with a couple of early obstacles and rocky climbs.
This was quite tricky. Head-butted a tree as I fell off. Somewhere here. Broke off my handguard. It's only the cheap Honda one and I'd already smashed it once, so never mind. Well done, that was the technique. Let's get out of here, eh? Oh dear. After the carnage of the last couple of days, not just dust but also mud, we found a tap and a little cleaning point, which was very much needed because both we and the bikes were caked.
So with our ferry home tomorrow, we've basically run out of time. So from Guardo, we decide to road ride back over the Picos, which is awesome anyway, and we have time for another go at the Lomba del Toro, the spine of the Bull Pass, which we can pick up before heading up to the coast for our last night at the beach. We've covered hundreds of miles of the TET, taking in some of section 4 and most of sections 5 to 8, basically down from Santander and the western half of the Picos loop.
I'm in, Chief, I'm in. And here is where our TET adventure finishes. We're back on the ferry from Santander this afternoon. And this seemed like a fitting finale. And what an epic adventure and a journey it has been to get us to this point. It's been absolutely awesome. First day we've put full wet kit on all week. I'll take that.
So what have we learned on our adventure? Well, there's strength in numbers. Solo or with just two of us has felt a bit out on a limb at times. Parts of the route are quite remote, and in reach or a bigger group would probably be wise. We were lucky with the weather, and early June was good for accommodation with plenty of availability. And finally, what are we doing out here, and what makes so many of us want to do this? Well, I think it's what appeals about motorcycling more generally. It's a chance to escape modern life, break free of the everyday routine. And for those of us who are not into sitting on a beach, it's to reset and to rest, but not by resting. And for me, it's to feel like I've achieved something, and to reach beautiful, remote places, and to make memories that I'll never forget. For just a little while, to have a bit of an adventure.